research. I'm truly honored to take over this great legacy from SOJC. It's been more than 10 years, as you can imagine. But starting this board, we decided to rejoin this great kind of SOJC research seminar series. And I'm so delighted to introduce our first inaugural speaker, who is nationally and internationally well renowned in the field, Professor Sheehan. So she's going to talk about her recent research project for about 30 minutes, and then the remaining will be for Q&A, respectful way, as you can imagine. So please join me welcoming Professor Sheehan.
I didn't expect this many people, so it's great that so many of our graduate students are here, and my colleagues in advertising and our staff people. And I also want to say a special hello to my friend Ann Duckendorf, who came here. Ann and I spent very much time together this summer. As some of you know, I own a couple alpacas, and one of them had a baby this summer, and they live at Ann's farm. So I spent almost daily. I was at Ann's farm with the baby alpaca, who's absolutely adorable. So friend me on Facebook and you can see him. And so I know a lot about what she does as an alpaca farmer, and she knows a little bit about what I do, so she wanted to come here and see more about what I do. Okay, so for all you graduate students who are wondering about doing research, the traditional way, and this is the way we recommend you to do research, is to have a topic, research it throughout your whole doctoral career, write your dissertation on it, and then keep working on that, and you may find little branches off the dissertation that you want to explore, but that's how you develop your reputation in academia. You have a dissertation and a specialty, and you develop an expertise in that, and everybody knows you like that. So that's what you should do. Don't do what I do, which is the Magpie strategy for doing research. I see something bright and shiny, and I want to know more about it, so I do a research study on it. So what that means is you start from scratch in terms of learning all the literature and all the background about it. Although with this study, I knew quite a bit about the literature on one of the areas, and so that helped me too. And often for my Magpie things, when I find something bright and shiny, often it's when I'm doing something totally not academic, although very intellectual, and I see something and it really stimulates my imagination. So that's how I got started. I also wanted to thank Dr. Na for inviting me to be the first person to present, because obviously he wanted to kick off the series with a topic of great global importance. And thus I got selected. But I also want to say I promised swag, and we have Hello Kitty temporary tattoos. They're all different. So please, and I have a sponge and liquid so you can apply them. So please be sure you get your Hello Kitty temporary tattoo before you leave. So what was this bright and shiny Magpie thing that got me interested in doing this surveys? I was reading an article in the very high impact factor journal, New York Magazine, and it had an article about a Kickstarter campaign. And it was a Kickstarter campaign for a small makeup company that was raising funds so they could license Lisa Frank. So how many people have heard of Lisa Frank? So if you haven't heard of Lisa Frank is a design company that produces stuff that appeals to middle school girls. Yes? Stuff that appeals to middle school girls. And no, there has been no Lisa Frank branded makeup, and this company wanted to raise funds to do it. But it wasn't to create makeup for middle school girls, which is a thing, because I've spent some time researching this. It's to make makeup for adult women. And the story in New York Magazine was really interesting. It was entitled, "Why Are So Many Makeup Companies Treating Women Like Children?" And it talked about this trend in the makeup industry to use images from childhood to market makeup to adult women. And so we're talking about makeup that isn't, Wet n Wild from the Hirons. The girls will know what I mean, the guys won't.
Wait a second.
I've had to go through Hirons many times.
Okay, then you know. I mean, it's makeup that starts at $25 for a lipstick and goes up from there. So this is expensive department store quality makeup that's getting marketed to women using images from childhood. The Kickstarter campaign for Lisa Frank had 6,000 people participate, and they raised over $300,000 because women wanted this makeup so badly. And part of it the article talked about was about how especially millennials are so attracted to what they consider the nostalgia of their youth. That the thought is that a millennial who sees something from their youth is automatically attracted to something. And that seems to be kind of a reasonable assumption. I didn't know if it was true or not. But the end of this article was so interesting to me. They also talked about things. There's a company that comes out with unicorn-themed makeup. There's also, and we'll see some pictures of it in a second, a number of Disney princess-themed makeup targeted to adult women. So this is a really strong trend in makeup today. But here's at the end of it that really got me thinking. I'm not saying that makeup in women can't be fun, silly, glitzy, or sparkly. After all, the swish of a brush across a woman's face generates such a glorious element of utility and escapism. It's the framing of some makeup that gives me pause. The way products are marketed to different members of society is telling of how we value them. And the packages lined up on the shiny shelves in Sephora suggest that society, too many S's in that sentence, has determined women possess the mental acuity and stunted interest of a small child. Wow, New York Magazine comes up with that. I'm like, is that true? What's going on there? The success of fairy-themed beauty trends and their ilk suggests that there is a clear market for this genre of makeup. But are women truly aware of the patronizing contradiction they're supporting? So I was like, well, I have to do a research study on this. And it's like, well, I'll go out and ask women, are you aware of the patronizing contradiction you're supporting? And I thought, well, that really isn't the way to do it. I need to learn more about this industry and how marketing happens. And so I was kind of surprised to see that the industry revenue for high-end makeup in 2016 was $62.5 million, which is a lot, but not, blow me away. But here's the other statistic that really surprised me. The average woman spends $200,000 in her lifetime on makeup. Yeah.
That would not be me.
Yeah. But, I think sometimes that some of our undergraduates who show up to an 8:30 class are completely decked out. And I thought, well, that was, I can kind of see that happening. And so when I was trying to read more about why, I found this quote: makeup is self-confidence applied directly to the face. Mm-hmm. And when we look at traditional beauty advertisements, we see a beautiful woman who's most of the time confidently looking at the camera, wearing the product that she's promoting. And so this is a perfect illustration of something Grant McCracken wrote years and years ago, that meaning passes from the world to the good. So if the meaning is that you can be beautiful and confident, that's the meaning from this ad that passes from the beautiful woman to the makeup that then we buy and use it for that to achieve those same goals. And when I read more about makeup and why people wear makeup, research shows that humans alter their appearance to control their self and social images, that wearing makeup enhances social interactions and influences how attractive, healthy, and confident women believe they are perceived. So that makeup is used to present the best image of ourselves to other people, to the rest of the world, and to achieve our own goals. And so it's not seen as something that's necessarily patronizing, but something that should be empowering. So with that in mind, I started to look at more of a theoretical base on how some of these choices are made in terms of a childish imagery. And the standard theory that is used to look at beauty product advertising is something called the matchup hypothesis. And it says that endorsers are more effective when there is a fit between the endorser and the endorsed product. So, and it works so well that we don't even notice it. We don't look at this ad and think, oh, that woman is a perfect fit to advertise the product. It's seamless. So we only notice the matchup hypothesis when it doesn't work. So this ad has been mocked.
For me though.
This ad has been mocked resoundingly on the internet, saying that what is he doing? You know, that why is he the endorser? So we could say there's a bad match between the endorser and the product. So with that in mind, I started to look around at things, you know, I was thinking about Lisa Frank and about the characters that Lisa Frank has created, and I was thinking a little bit more about spokes characters and how spokes characters are used. And there's basically two types of spokes characters that we see out there. And I was trying to, so I'm trying to think, has the matchup hypothesis ever been used to look at spokes characters? So the first kind of spokes characters, which are, the definition is imaginary advertising product endorsers who promote a brand. I guess that's a little redundant, but the first type is those that are created specifically for a brand. So we have Mr. Clean and Tony the Tiger, et cetera, et cetera. And many of these are anthropomorphized characters. And how an anthropomorphized character is developed is someone takes an audience characteristic, a positive aspect of the brand, and puts them together in a character. And so animals are appealing because we don't have to compare ourselves to them directly, although research shows that the closer an animal is to being a human, the stronger they are as a spokesperson, which I think is interesting. There's also a hierarchy in terms of animals, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Then a second aspect of brand spokes characters is when a spokes character develops their fame or their celebrity or their credibility in a different context, and then that context is transferred to a brand. So one of the first ones was Popeye, who was licensed to promote a brand of spinach, and we can think of the Peanuts characters who do insurance, Bart and Lisa Simpson who do milk, and my absolutely favorite one, because this is real, the Flintstones promoted cigarettes back in the day when the Flintstones was a prime time program, not a kids program. So these are a little bit different. So the celebrity that is gained in one context is transferred to a different context. So there has been almost no research done on what I term celebrity spokes characters. So if I did anything in this research, I created a new term. Okay, so I wanted to look at how celebrity spokes characters have been used in beauty advertising. And there are a couple different ways it has happened. There could be taking the character out of context. So we have Jane Jetson for Dove. There have been characters from Disney movies that have been licensed and to promote makeup. So when we look at Beauty and the Beast makeup, are we thinking of the character Belle, or are we thinking of the character of Hermione Granger, because that's who I think she is, or what's her name, Emma Watson? So yeah, so that's kind of gets a little complex and confounding. And then we have things like these ads, which have a real person, but she's made up to look like Barbie, promoting a very specific Barbie collection. But the makeup characters, the celebrity spokes characters that I'm most interested in are ones that occur on a pretty regular basis for a makeup company, MAC, which is owned by Estee Lauder, yes. And so these are three real campaigns that they have done: Miss Piggy, Hello Kitty, and Wonder Woman. So I wanted to look at these three celebrity spokes characters and see how using them in advertising affects not only how women perceive the brand, but how women perceive women who use those cosmetics. So the first one that I'm looking at is Miss Piggy. She is an anthropomorphized pig. Why I need to even say that is beyond me. She's an anthropomorphized pig who started her career on Sesame Street and the Muppet movie. The MAC website describes her as an actress, supermodel, chanteuse, and glamour goddess. And this is interesting. She's a feminist icon, and she won an award from Brooklyn's Center for Feminist Art called the First Award. So before I did the experiment, I did a little pretest where I went on Facebook and asked everybody what's one word to describe each of these characters. People saw Miss Piggy as strong and empowered, lots of good things, which are very nicely connected with makeup. But then a couple people saw her as kind of pushy and aggressive and spoiled and a bit of a diva. So there's a bit of some kind of mixed feelings about Miss Piggy, which surprises me because I realized I didn't really have any feelings either way to Miss Piggy. So the next is Hello Kitty. Hello Kitty is a design character that was introduced by Sanrio in 1975. She is seen as cute and sweet, and it's a quality described by Sanrio as kawaii. And this is so interesting to me. Some have attributed her success to the fact that she doesn't have a mouth. And so we can put our own feelings and opinions more easily onto her because she doesn't have a mouth. Fascinated by that. In announcing the collaboration with Hello Kitty, the president of MAC said, she may not have a mouth, but she's going to sell a lot of lipstick. And in the pretest, clearly it was cute and sweet that came up all the time with Hello Kitty. And then finally is Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is a superhero that appeared as a comic book in 1941. She embodies strength and feminism, and in fact, she was named the UN's ambassador for the empowerment of women and girls last year. And then she was subsequently stripped of that title because she was seen as too highly sexualized. And so I do want to, so when I put this up for the pretest, all the thoughts were that she was very strong and empowered and a badass. And I did collect this data a month before the Wonder Woman movie actually came out. So the minute I saw a trailer on television, I was like, oh, I have to go collect data now, or else it's going to be ruined by that data, the Wonder Woman movie is there. So that's what I wanted to look at. And I had a couple hypotheses. My first hypothesis was the perceived fit between spokes-character and brand is strongest with Wonder Woman, because as a celebrity spokes-character, she's the closest to a human. I was trying to decide if one, either Hello Kitty or Miss Piggy, would do better than the other, but I didn't know how the strong and the sweet would really balance out. So I didn't hypothesize any relationship there. And the next set of hypotheses was that Wonder Woman would generate more positive attitudes toward the ad, more positive attitudes toward the brand, and higher levels of purchase intention than either of the other two characteristics. So these two measures, attitude toward the ad and attitude to the brand, are scale measures. For attitude to the ad, it's whether you see the ad as negative, positive, favorable, unfavorable, interesting, or boring. And for attitude toward the brand, is the brand likable, unlikable, good, bad, favorable, unfavorable. And then my research questions were, do celebrity spokes-characters generate higher attitudes and purchase intentions than traditional models in cosmetics advertising? Does age influence the result? Because I wanted to test something that was in that New York article, that this is more appealing to millennials than other groups. And do different spokes-characters affect self-identity differently? So that's kind of I kind of loop back to the Magpie thing that got me attracted to this. So my method was to do an experiment with 228 women. I used Amazon's Mechanical Turk. If anybody ever has a question about that, let me know. Women were exposed to one of the 4 ads, the 3 that I just showed you, as well as this control ad for MAC. And then they responded to a lot of scales. I've talked about fit, attitude to the ad, attitude to the brand. And then I had selected items from an empowerment and self-esteem scale, which I asked women, what do you think the woman who wears the specific type of makeup that you saw is like? Do you think she feels that she's attractive or unattractive, strong or weak, mature or immature? Do you think she makes a lot of money or she doesn't make a lot of money? So I asked a variety of questions to try to tap into this idea of how people would see women wearing that makeup. So, so here are the results. The first hypothesis on fit was partially supported, and some purists say you can't have a partially supported hypothesis. So if you're one of those people, then just say not supported here. But I'm one of those people that believes there's shades of gray to hypotheses. So the perceived fit was highest for Wonder Woman and Hello Kitty. There wasn't a statistically significant difference, and significantly lower for Miss Piggy. Attitude to the ad was the same thing. It was highest for Wonder Woman and Hello Kitty, and significantly lower for Miss Piggy. Attitude to the brand was not supported. Hello Kitty had the highest attitudes toward the brand. And I asked about MAC, so we're talking about the same makeup company. Attitude to the brand was highest for Hello Kitty, less high for Wonder Woman, and then lowest for Miss Piggy. Are we sensing a trend? And then purchase intention, it was highest for Wonder Woman and Hello Kitty, and significantly lower for Miss Piggy. So then the first research question asked, well, what happens if we put the control in there? How does the control work with attitude to the ad and attitude to the brand? And for the control, the control ad was seen at the same levels of attitude to the ad and brand as Wonder Woman and Hello Kitty. And then for purchase intention, the control ad had the highest levels of purchase intention, significantly higher than Wonder Woman and Hello Kitty. And then, are millennials more influenced by celebrity spokes-characters? And I don't know if you can read this, but it says outlook not so good. So that just means the answer is no. I didn't have a cool. I couldn't find Hello Kitty saying no. So, and so basically, I did a regression on purchase intention where I looked at the influence of advertising attitude toward the ad and the brand with age as a moderator, and age did not turn out significantly as a moderator. So this isn't something that, according to my data, appeals more to a millennial more or less than anybody else. Okay, so this is the interesting thing. How did women view women who wear this makeup? The woman who wears Wonder Woman is more confident and more mature than women who wear Miss Piggy and Hello Kitty. So if it's in red, it means it's a significant difference. The woman who wears Hello Kitty makeup is happiest, but she's somewhat less confident and somewhat less comfortable in social situations than women wearing Wonder Woman or the women who were exposed to the control ad. The woman who wears Miss Piggy makeup is seen as, are you ready? Least healthy, least attractive, least happy, and most lacking in self-esteem. And she is less concerned about her appearance than women who wear Wonder Woman and Hello Kitty. And then women exposed to the control ad said the woman who wears this makeup is healthiest, most attractive, most mature, and most concerned about her appearance. She is most likely to earn well above the national average and the most comfortable in social situations compared to the other three celebrity spokes-character ads. So what does this mean? The first thing, some implications for theory. The first one is that the matchup hypotheses can work for celebrity spokes-characters. So we see differences in how different spokes-characters are seen, and we're starting to see some reasons why that's happening. So that's the first implication. The second implication is that even though celebrity spokes-characters have their images totally controlled by someone, so they can't go and get arrested for drunk driving or for spousal abuse, but even though they are tightly controlled, that they do, that some of this tightly controlled image isn't very positive for them, because again, meaning passes from the world to the good. So we develop an attitude about what Miss Piggy stands for, and that passes on to everything we see her connected with. So that's a pretty strong power that celebrity spokes-characters can have, and certainly with these, Hello Kitty was probably developed with the idea of selling a bunch of stuff, but the other ones were probably not developed with this idea that they would be marketed, especially for an adult product to women. So celebrity spokes-characters have baggage. So we saw that in the first slide, and we see it especially with Miss Piggy. And I think there's something going on with body image here, because Miss Piggy may be a role model for her strength and outspokenness. She won an award for it. But I think she's victim to some of the traditional prejudices in beauty advertising. Specifically, that today's standards for beauty mean that women have to be impossibly thin. And when you see even a pretend character who's not impossibly thin, that goes against what society has set up as the cultural standard. And thus we have a poor reaction to it. So I think we're seeing that in Miss Piggy. The other thing that's going on is I mentioned that there's a hierarchy for anthropomorphized animals. And the hierarchy is the best brand spokes characters anthropomorphized are those in the jungle because they're strong and they have to fight all the time. The second are pets, cats and dogs, which is where Miss Piggy comes. And the third are things we eat. So, so it could be that people are applying that, spokes character one day, rackarid's the next. That's it. That's not going to connect well to our ideas of the standards of beauty. The next is the implications for the utility of using a celebrity spokes character. They don't work as well as real women. And I think, to me, that's the interesting thing. I thought at least one of them would work as well. And I think they also limit the idea of why many women buy makeup. If you buy makeup to empower yourself and to have control over your self-image, the makeup, even if nobody knows what the brand is, it's suggesting a certain type of image that some women aren't just going to connect with. So companies aren't doing a great service to themselves by connecting with some of these brand spokes characters. This idea of young at heart may not work for adult brands. The other thing we have to think of is something that happened, is something that's going on, is that if women are continued to be exposed to these childish images as spokes characters that represent brands that they know and love, this continual exposure to childish images is likely to have some effect on how women see themselves in the world. And so while we may say, well, it's not great to show these beautiful women all the time, it's probably better to show beautiful women than childish spokes characters to help women feel better about themselves. And then finally, I wanted to have some implications for practitioners. And I got a little stuck on this. This is the first one I came up with, that if you want to have a good spokes character, just put Hello Kitty in a Wonder Woman outfit and you'll be fine. But when I really started to think about it in a bit more of a nuanced way, I think that we're at a point in our society right now is advertisers are so concerned about how to connect with millennials that they'll grab onto anything they can that they think is going to make that connection. And perhaps they don't do the level of evaluation or analysis on how people perceive those spokes characters before they actually put them out there. And I think all they're going to do is continue to alienate millennials from engaging in advertising messages today. So that's all I wanted to talk about. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
First of all, I want to thank you, Professor Sheehan, for sharing this very well-designed, interesting, and thought-provoking presentation. Really appreciate that. For this, SRS, the SOJC Research Seminar Series, aims to offer opportunities for faculty, but also students to share the research project so that we can stimulate our intellectual dialogue. So right now it's the time, the equally exciting time for us to have some questions and answers with discussions. So feel free to ask. Yeah, starting. Yeah. Well,
okay. So two things. One, did you show me looking at correlations of like exposure of these characters to each other, and then also, well, that's the first part, and then the second part is, have you thought about doing like your control ad was to my mind, a nameless model.
Yeah.
Using how they would rate a celebrity spokes character versus celebrity.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the things that Hello Kitty has much more exposure, I think, as a selling medium than maybe Miss Piggy. and just because she's applied to so many more things, and does that influence it? And then again, the nameless, like if you put Angelina Jolie, let's say, as the testing, that people's negatives are positive associations with her. Like that one woman's a blank canvas versus something that's coming with
and for this, I wanted to have a blank canvas, but I think you're right. And especially I showed the pictures of, Angelina Jolie is Maleficent. So that adds another dimension that I think could be evaluated as well. Are you looking at her as Angelina Jolie, the actress, or are you looking at her as the Maleficent character and kind of trying to tease out some of those things, which I think that moves into a little bit of more of a complex area, but I think that's an interesting thing to look at too. And your first question about
just Hello Kitty has just been used for so many things, like that she has become a spokesmodel for.
Right, and that's why she was designed to be put on things. Right. I think
versus Miss Piggy, who is not, or I mean Wonder Woman 2 had a different purpose.
And so they were developed for different purposes. I think at the time when I collected this study, I think that they are all very saturated in terms of product marketing. And one of the things I was wondering is all these people, they not only are on high-end makeup, they're also on diapers. And it's like, well, what signal does that send when you can be buying something that a baby wears to poop in? I probably overthink the whole diaper thing, but that's where we're at, is that, Miss Piggy is pretty much on every single thing you can put something on. And I think with the Wonder Woman, the rise, the reinvigorated interest. So it's hard, but I think that's a good point too, that there's a difference in terms of someone who is designed for a specific reason, kind of like the Lisa Frank character. They're designed to be cute and to attract people who want to be part of that cuteness, as opposed to characters that were designed with much more of a personality. And perhaps that's what we're seeing with Miss Piggy, is that she was designed to be a much stronger
personality. But she kind of has a negative, I think she was meant to be a foil to Kermit, and so she always has this kind of negative, or, whatever those characteristics. Yeah. And so to escape that is harder for her, because she can't step out, oh, well, now I'm Miss Piggy, the nice person. She's always a character.
No, you're right.
Do you think there'd be a difference between high-end makeup and them being used for high school makeup? It's not the most expensive brand, but it is a brand targeted to grown women and not
right. And in fact, there's makeup for both Hello Kitty and Miss Piggy targeted to, college students or to high school girls. So they do appear already in that line of makeup. But I think when we looked at the ads, they were all very much both within the milieu of the character and also designed to appeal to someone who is more of an adult. So there are some very specific persuasive tactics that were chosen for those ads that would be different if you were targeting a different target audience. So that would be a different, and there's not, and of course some people may be exposed to both those messages, and how that conflicts with what they're thinking too is something that I couldn't tease out in this study, but that would be interesting. Yeah.
So I don't know how much of this is actually a question, just some of your thoughts on this. I also read something about, or several articles in popular press about how millennials, especially in that age group and younger, are buying essentially old lady makeup like MAC and Estee Lauder because of the selfie trend. And I wonder how that might, I'm clearly not the best makeup connoisseur, but I would never buy a Piggy, Hello Kitty, whatever. I would never seek that out or find that attractive to myself at all. But do you think that they at all are thinking about that younger generation that's super interested in using that contour makeup? I think that's what MAC's for, right? Like it's super.
Yeah, but all these this is just pretty much their regular makeup, like eyeshadow and lipstick, and there's nothing really distinctive about what you can do with it. And probably some of the shades are the same across the lines. It's just kind of branding. Yeah. It's interesting to say that, because I asked women up front, do they use makeup? And I was thinking, well, I'll take out everybody who doesn't use makeup. It was a pretty small, I think in the last 6 months, it was a pretty small number. I had a woman email me after she took the survey saying, hi, Kim, my name's Jane and I'm 56 years old. And it's like, what is she doing? She's confessing to me. And I might have messed up your study because I said I don't wear makeup, but I would definitely buy Hello Kitty makeup because I think it's so cool. And so it's like, well, I guess I have to leave everybody in then. You know, people who, because I have evidence that people who wouldn't even buy makeup would buy this, and it was a 56-year-old woman. Could she be a huge outlier? Yes. Could she be indicative of a bigger trend? I think yes, because I did see that age wasn't a moderating variable. So
Cuteness is a thing now.
Cuteness is a thing. Who doesn't want to be cute, right? So.
But in the case you just cited, she's not buying makeup, she's buying a Hello Kitty.
Right.
She wants, right, yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it too, right? To attract women who don't regularly buy makeup, because here's something that's special just for them, because it brings them, that makes them part of the tribe.
But my question is, she's almost like a collector.
Yeah, yes, that's,
Right?
yeah.
She may never use that
Right.
makeup.
Right, exactly, exactly.
She's really, like, your first inclination is right, I think she was an outlier.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, maybe she wasn't, you know, but yeah.
She can find someone else.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, I was gonna say my daughter was introduced to makeup through my mother, and so what
Sure,
they.
blame mom.
Yeah, well, she supports the habit, so I'm okay with it. She created the monster, but anyways. So, but I think that might be interesting, like what you would buy for yourself versus what you would, you know, like, and how that happens, or who was the first person that bought you, like what's the gateway
Yeah.
purchase to that?
Just a lot of the kind of what attracts people is their limited edition. They're not available year long, so it's like, oh, I can get the, because they really don't do that much like difference. You just like change the packaging, and there might be one or two shades that are exclusive to the collection. But it's the appeal that it's like a one.
It's scarcity, right?
And
it's
it's
scarcity.
you
Yeah.
can have the one, let's say, that has the Hello Kitty face or the Wonder Woman packaging, and it's
Right.
pretty, and they're gonna take pictures.
Right, and I think with this study, I was very careful to say this, that it wasn't a scarcity thing. It wasn't only available for a limited time, and none of the ads said that either, because I think that provides an additional type of purchase decision that I wanted to try to not address in this study. Yeah.
You mentioned that you felt like advertisers weren't doing their due diligence. They're not fully understanding what the connection means and what the consumer's taking away from it. So what would be your recommendation to advertisers?
Well, I think, and I'll look for my colleagues to confirm this, advertisers don't know what to do about millennials. Yeah? I mean, they're kind of throwing a lot of stuff out there and seeing what sticks. And what we're seeing in some cases is this idea of brand authenticity and brands that stand for more than a set of product attributes, which for many brands, it's just way too hard to do that. So,
and when they mess up like Dove.
Right. Well, I would argue maybe Dove wasn't messed up. It was the way that Dove was framed by some people on social media. So, there's all kinds of things that go into that as well. So, yeah, but I think, again, the other implication is millennials are much more likely to engage with messages and amplify both the good and the bad than other groups as well. So I think that's a risk that advertisers are trying to figure out the best way as well. Yeah.
Probably these 56 years old women, what does it tell you? Like, invest on children and then make sure it's a long time investment, because like you're grooming them to be the next consumers.
Yeah.
So in any case, nostalgia plays a part. Your brand love would be stronger if you get introduced to it in your formative age, like in your.
Yeah, I mean, nostalgia as an advertising tactic or strategy or tactic has always been used. But selecting what you want to be nostalgic about seems to be tilting toward this kind of childish iconography as opposed to kind of deeper feelings about what childhood meant to you. So I think, again, it kind of goes into the whole shortcut thing was, oh, you liked this when you were 13, so I'm going to use it to make you like me now, as opposed to thinking, why did they like that when they were 13? Was it the colors? Was it the fantasy aspect? Was it the outspokenness? So I think brands need to spend a little bit more time kind of digging. Was it because everybody in my social group was liking it, and I wanted to do it to be part of the group? So I think that's the type of digging that brands aren't doing now that I think they ought to be doing.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with your last point there. Just two things. Many years ago, when I taught advertising, I had a blooper reel or a reel of commercials that were put together by an advertising consortium, and it included a UK-based spot of a pork manufacturer ad, and the spokes-character was Porky Pig. And it was a
kind of
funny,
like Charlie the Tuna. Yeah.
Right,
Don't think of it that
it
closely.
was a funny commercial, but it was put on the reel of what not to do.
Yeah.
So, I think you hit that nail earlier. And then the last thing you mentioned a moment ago, a little bit more about your method. How did you distribute your questionnaires? And tell us a little bit more about your method.
So I used Amazon Mechanical Turk, which is a platform that's run by Amazon that it's like Qualtrics, only run by Amazon and much cheaper and much faster. So I ran the survey there. So I used the Qualtrics interface to randomly expose people to one of the 4 ads. And so I limited it to women because that's something you can pre-screen now for on Amazon Mechanical Turk in the United States. So there were 228 who responded to it. Is that enough information?
Yeah. You made me also think of another thing. The Mac brand, I've been told and have heard from stand-up comedian Eddie Azar, the Mac brand tends to appeal to transgender community. So I was wondering if that was a variable that you might consider at some point.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting to look at, and I think that it appeals to the community not because of the attributes to the makeup, but of the company's commitment to AIDS research and to being very accepting of people, celebrities, and featuring celebrities in the trans community. So I think that's an interesting part of it that has to do, I think, more with CSR than like childish imagery. But yeah, that is an interesting thought. All right, everyone, don't forget your tattoo. I want to see tattoos throughout Ellen Hall. Thank you very much for coming.